Sagittarius, welcome to your weekly reading. Let's get started and see what messages we have for Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising positions for the week ahead. Now, keep in mind, my friends, these are general readings and may not resonate for everyone. So make sure to check out your other placements so that you can receive a more complete picture. And if you're interested in a personal reading, you can find the link for that in the description below, or you can send me an email to set that up. All right, my friends, let's get started. Okay, for Sagittarius, what is the energy around Sagittarius for the week ahead? Current energy around Sagittarius for the week ahead. Okay, all right, Sagittarius. Let's see, bottom of the deck, you've got the Faith card coming through the third eye chakra. So having faith here is going to guide you, as I feel looking at these cards, you're coming from the heart chakra here, looking at growth and perception and growth. And you're doing this in isolation. So it appears to me, Sagittarius, that you're at a place right now where the energy around you is sort of guiding you to examine your perception to see if it can expand. I think you're looking at growing something. You're looking at expanding or growing something here, growth in the perception that's being done in isolation. And you're seeing that it's important to have faith in things and maybe not, necessarily looking at your current reality as a basis for what's coming up in the future for you. I feel like you have something in mind that you have a lot of faith in, that you can grow this. And it's shifting your perception of how to make changes in your reality. I think you're starting to see that the inner changes we make are that's what changes. That shift is what shifts the outside reality. So the changes that happen on the inner level are really what's happening to change the external reality, as opposed to the other way around. Sometimes I think, we feel that we are responding to our reality and it dictates how we feel, rather than it's the opposite message. And I think you're starting to see that the shift inside creates the shift outside. And it feels like you're moving towards that this week. And you're doing it, I feel like you're really doing this on your own. I feel like you're not necessarily talking about it. This isolation card is a throat chakra card, and I feel like seeing this says to me that you're not necessarily talking about this. You're sort of working on your perception and growing your faith and shifting your perception, and you're doing that in isolation. So let's see what the tarot cards will reveal for you. Look at that. We're seeing the Magician and the Eight of Pentacles as I cut the deck. So I think you're starting to see that you're the creator, and that it's a mastery here. Like, this is where you're really starting to master an idea around how to shift your reality. And that you're the one here in the sort of in the creator's seat. Yes. Okay, Sagittarius. Let's have a look here. What is the energy around Sagittarius? There's the Devil in reverse. Interesting first card. Let's get your whole row out, Sag, and we'll have a look and see. Seeing the Page of Swords, the Five of Swords. Wow. This is a time where you're not talking to people about this. Yeah. That Page of Swords, that Five of Swords, and we're seeing the Six and Seven of Wands coming out one after the other. So you're really protecting your energetic space right now. You're not talking about this with people. And I feel like it's interesting. It's healing your inner child. There's some stuff here that's healing you. This is so interesting seeing these cards come out for you. I feel like you're really working on some shifts here. You're shifting your perception, and you're not talking about it. You're not engaging others in this activity, but others will be noticing this. I feel like this is going to create excuse me. This is going to create some changes in your, just like we were just saying, some changes in your external reality. And one of those changes I feel is that you're not going to be speaking about this with people. I feel like you're done convincing people. You're done sort of talking about things in a way that I feel it almost it loses the focus when you do that. And I think that's what you've realized, that the energy becomes less concentrated, becomes less focused. You become less aligned, because the minute you talk to people about whatever you're doing, you're going to hear what they think, right? You're going to hear what they think about it. And then that could alter your perception. So I think you've discovered that in these moments where you're growing something in your perception, it's best to keep it to yourself until you sort of are feeling like, I don't know, maybe you won't, I was going to say until you feel like it's time to talk about it, but maybe you won't get there. Maybe you'll understand that sort of the oversharing that we do about things that are internal is sometimes not necessary. You know what I mean? And that it's a way of seeking external validation. And I think you're not going to do that this time. Looking at these cards tells me that you've actually put up some energetic boundaries around whatever it is that you're thinking about. And yes, I think people are going to notice the change when I see the 6. The 7, seeing the 7 first, tells me that you've established this energetic boundary where you're not necessarily looking at others. You're not comparing yourself to others. You're not comparing your journey with other people's journey. You're not looking and thinking, well, how come they're doing that and I'm doing that? You're not bothered by any of that. And anybody that may be sort of competing with you, that's not even on your radar, because you're not interested in those kind of dynamics right now. I feel like you've placed an energetic boundary around yourself, and people are going to notice a difference, and they might approach you to be like, what's going on? But you're almost at a place, I feel like, where you're like, everything's good. I'm not, like, you're not talking about this. This is very interesting. I feel like you're really holding this to yourself. Yeah. And seeing the Devil in reverse makes me wonder. I know I've talked about all these cards except the Devil, but the Devil in reverse tells me that there could be a part of you that, you know, for some of you, you may not be talking about it because you're not wanting to hear other people's ideas around it, because you don't want to alter your perception, like we just said. But for some others of you, I almost feel like this isolation is a form of withdrawal, that you're pulling away from other people in a way where you might be truly on the cusp of a breakthrough, but you might need to step away from something that is sort of like, on a traditional level, seeing the Devil in reverse could suggest some kind of an addiction or a vice that's overwhelming you. But I almost see this as a time where you're ready to actually break away from your ego. You know, that's how I'm seeing this Devil in reverse, that you're on the cusp of a breakthrough and you're not giving your power away to anything that seems like it's not... You're not giving your power away to anything right now that is external. I was going to say that seems like it's not part of whatever you're working on, but it's more than that. It's like you're not giving your power away to anything external. You're not giving your power away through oversharing. You're not giving your power away by comparing yourself and looking for external validation. And you're not giving your power away by overly focusing on the past in a way that makes you feel limited. Like, you're not giving your power away, full stop. That's how I'm seeing this Devil in reverse, based on what else I'm seeing here. That you're growing something and you're doing it in a way where you're sort of energetically protecting what your perception is around this. And I feel like you're doing that to to really be with yourself with this, you know, to see how you feel and think and what your heart is guiding you to do. You don't want interference right now. That's the key. Let's see what's on the bottom of the deck here. We're seeing the World card and the Two of Cups kind of peeking on top. It's funny, as I grabbed the deck, the Two of Cups sort of shifted on top, but it was the World card on top. But seeing the Two of Cups kind of wanting to make an appearance tells me that you've entered a cycle here by ending a cycle, and you're now engaged with your higher self. I'm seeing this Two of Cups as you and your higher self, and that's where your focus is. Your focus is on whatever is happening within. And I feel like it's a new cycle for you, Sagittarius, where you're not overly focused on the external world in the same way that you may have been. Your perception of the external world has shifted. It's changed, and I feel like you're moving away from things in the external world that you used to maybe use as a form of validation and confirmation, and a way almost to judge yourself as being good or bad, and I feel like you've abandoned that, and it's serving you. And let's clarify some of these cards, but it really does feel like you're at a place where you're doing things in a very different way than you used to. You may have been open to hearing other people's perceptions about you so that you could sort of almost, judge yourself as being good or bad, successful or unsuccessful. You may have been comparing yourself with other people or using their opinions of you to base an opinion about yourself. And I almost feel like you're stepping away from that whole model, that judgment model where you judge yourself and you judge your surroundings. I feel like you're stepping into a new vibe where, that vibe will maybe be different for everyone listening, but it almost feels like it's shifting your previous perception, and you're growing as a result, and you're not interested in comparisons anymore. There's the Ace of Cups. It's coming through in the reverse on that Devil. So that tells me that as you do this exercise, that you're sort of shifting your perception right now to make sure that you're not judging yourself as good or bad, successful, not successful, moving forward, moving back. Those judgments will just limit you into categories, right? And so seeing the Ace of Cups in reverse says to me, pour that love, that unconditional love that knows no judgment. It has no eye for judgment. Pour that onto yourself. Allow yourself to offer yourself that compassion, love, forgiveness, empathy, and non-judgment, because then I feel like you will expand your perception to be able to sort of have that approach when you feel ready to rejoin the external world. Because I feel like right now you've completely made everything, like you've made your world intentionally small as you do this exercise. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, there's a judgment, right? Saying right or wrong. But it's interesting. This reading is making me feel like you've started to accept things as they are, and without categorizing them. Judgments, right? No judgments. It feels like you're moving away from those judging sort of categories. Looking here at these cards, I feel like we're seeing the Chariot and we're seeing that Eight of Pentacles again, which is interesting. This tells me that as you are moving away from sort of trying to convince people or caring if people understand you, again, it's creating a mastery in your ability to sort of work on yourself. But I do feel like seeing the Chariot here it's sort of making me feel like you're using your will rather than your heart. And using the will to create change can still leave you vulnerable to judgment, because there's this energy that can say, again, good, bad, master, novice, where you're, again, categorizing things. But along this journey, I feel like you are sort of realizing things that you find you could want to focus on in terms of where you want to direct your focus. And so I'm seeing this Chariot and the Eight of Pentacles as a time where you are honing your focus on what you do with your time, energy, and resources. And yes, maybe you're using your will to sort of motivate yourself to focus, but it feels like it's shifting your energy upwards anyway. Like it's creating a higher vibration for you. And I feel like that could be a part of this sort of isolation that you're in. Oh, wow, there's the Devil, he's back. And look, there's the Seven of Wands on the Seven of Wands. I love when that happens, because to me that's double confirmation for you that you're really protecting your energy. You're examining things that you may have considered to be shadows, but I feel like you're bringing them up to heal them, and you're focused mainly on emotional disappointments. And I feel like you may be guarding yourself a little bit in this isolation. So it's interesting. You don't want to invite others in, and maybe you need to look at what the motivation is. Is it from the heart space, or is it from the will? If it's from the will, you might be fear may be your motivation, right? You might be using fear as a motivation here because you don't want to invite comparisons or judgments from others, and perhaps that's a more fear-based motivation for you. When I see the Five of Cups in reverse here, that's interesting. You may be sort of wanting to avoid things instead of accepting things as they are. You may need to sort of go into the past and change a narrative that you're holding on to in a way that is causing fear of things happening again in that way. And that may be holding you a little bit in the past still, right? You may not have completely surrendered that past disappointment because you're still focused on it. Oh my goodness, yet again, look, Six of Cups coming out to clarify the Six of Cups. And there's the World, which was on the bottom of the deck, showing up again. So your energy is very clear in this reading. It is about repairing something in the past and changing that narrative so that you're not hostage of that past experience anymore, because it almost feels like that past experience has been overly defining you. And you might be defining yourself by that, like I am, and then you're using that past experience to define yourself. And it's interesting. It's almost like you have to go back to that dimension in the past and sit with it and re-categorize it. Even though I feel like that's still a judgment, it's almost like you have to re-look at it, rejudge it, look at it again and accept it. And then you have a chance of not being hostage anymore. You know, the more you identify with that past experience, the more you become a hostage of that past experience. And it becomes something that defines you in the present, which means that you're not actually living in the present moment. You're still, your physical body's in the present moment, but your energy is still attached to this past experience. And that may cause you to have exactly what we're seeing here, this isolation and this idea that you feel like you have to motivate yourself with your will rather than your heart. You might be using your mind and your will to try to almost force yourself into pockets where you feel this is good and this is bad. So I'm going to stay away from the bad and focus on the good. But it almost feels like that's a fear-based motivation that's coming from this past experience. So there is something here, Sagittarius, that you need to free yourself from. And I feel like you're on the cusp of that breakthrough. You're about to realize that it's this over-identification with this past energy that is keeping you a prisoner in that way. And I feel like you're about to set yourself free, to be honest. And as I look at the bottom of the deck, I see Judgment, which confirms it for me. You're about to see how you can shift your perception of yourself into a new reality by setting yourself free from a past a past moment, and I feel like you've over identified with that past moment in a way that has left you sort of judging yourself as that past moment and saying, I am, and using that as a way to see yourself, to perceive yourself. But I do feel like you're moving past it. You're starting to see this dynamic for what it is. Let's see, what does Sagittarius need to surrender or surrender to? What does Sagittarius need to surrender or surrender to? Interesting. Look at, I mean, really, surrender outdated beliefs about yourself. Talk about, sort of summarizing the last 20 minutes of this reading in one phrase. Surrender outdated beliefs of yourself. That seems to be what you're working on and what is the guidance for you to continue to do. It says here, let go of limiting ideas about yourself that originate from the past. Then you can have your power and soar in your life. And I'll add to that, then you're truly present in the now. Because right now, like I said, it feels like your physical body is in the present, but your energetic body, your mental body, your emotional body, those are all in the past. And they're identifying with the past and you're isolating yourself in the present. But I feel like it's motivated almost by this process, but also a little bit by fear. And you're thinking a lot about the past. See, we're seeing surrender obsessive thinking. A lot of you is still in the past. A lot of you is still in the past. If you're obsessing about a person or situation, turn the dilemma over to spirit. Doing so will help bring clarity or even solve the problem. I feel like we're seeing this because we saw the devil come up twice for you. And to me, that when we see the devil, we think of things like addictions, obsessions. We see the shadow element that needs healing, right? That needs accepting and love in order to change it from being something that is fear-based to just accepting it as an experience without judgment, right? It's our minds and our thoughts that create the judgment. The experience is just the experience. And it's our minds and thoughts that create the judgment around it and the category, right? When we judge that experience as being negative or bad, we've immediately created a judgment about it, and then the beliefs about ourself start to form. And so surrendering these obsessive thoughts will actually help you to surrender the beliefs that are outdated about yourself. And the bottom of the deck says, I love that, surrender to receiving support and love. And I feel like that's that Ace of Cups coming through. That's you offering yourself support and love instead of judgment, And so I'm going to leave it at that for you, Sagittarius. What a really interesting reading. And I'm sending you so much love as you are going through this process. And I look forward to reading for you again soon, my friends. Take care.